You know, I have been waiting for this for a good while, the origin of Ultimate Mysterio, because honestly, when he first appeared in Ultimate Spider-Man, I was kind of like, hey, that Mysterio right there seems way more intriguing than the main Marvel Mysterio. Now, this is not me hating on the original Mysterio, because honestly, Mysterio is one of my favorite bad guys, thanks to Spider-Man on the PlayStation 1. But when it came to Ultimate Mysterio, I just had to know more about the origin of this character. And the thing is, I did not see this coming at all. And it really shows that Jonathan Hickman still got it when it comes to being one of the great writers over at Marvel Comics. But we also have to remember that this is taking place right after the supposed death of Harry Osborn. And honestly, I kind of knew that Harry was not going to be dead. And the only reason why, because, well, it was too early to kill off somebody that important to run when it comes to Jonathan Hickman. But at first, it does kind of seem like he's still playing with the idea that Harry Osborn is officially dead. And you have Gwen right now just standing over his tombstone. So this kind of begins a flashback, or really more us learning the origin of Gwen Stacy, because right after that, we go back in time and we see her talking to her father. And this first flashback does take place right after her mother had recently died. And so you have her father right now trying to help her not really move on, but how to handle the pain of losing somebody, which can be very difficult to do. Which then kind of skips us forward a tad bit. And the reason why I'm saying that, because we see her now with Harry Osborn, and we're kind of right before you have the two characters get married, because you do have the two characters announce to one another that they love each other. So we're seeing the early days of their relationship, and also her relationship with his parents. Now, why you have the two characters at dinner with one another, that is when you have Gwen get a call. And apparently they had just found her father. And so it kind of leads us back into that flashback once again. I kind of like this because it's no longer just, hey, you know, it's going to be hard to move on from your mother's death. No, it's now him saying, like, when you're a young child and when it comes to your parents, you look at them in an image most of the time, not all the time, that they are like the perfect person to you. They're always there for you. And so for Gwen, for her mom's death, she will always have that image of her mother being perfect, but her father's still there. And he's saying right now, like, you're going to learn over time that with me, that's not the case at all. I'm not that perfect person. That matter of fact, there's people out there who think differently about me. And then his eyes begin to glow. And this leads us into a different flashback. Because we do learn here that for her father, he was part of some kind of cult. And the thing was, after his death, his wishes was for her to join that organization. And so we do learn here that technically five people are all part of some kind of cult, and they're all working together to be Mysterio. But as we fast forward in the timeline for her origin, we do see her now being married to Harry Osborn. You know, it's the actual wedding night, and she gets the chance to dance with his father, Norman. Now, we have not really seen Norman in this reality, because in this reality, Norman has been dead. He was killed a while ago. But for Norman right now, is him telling Gwen, like, you could have done better. Because for Norman, he does not look at Harry as a great man, as a great son. And so he says, listen, do not let my son stop you from what you can become down the road. And so she tells him, I understand. But this kind of leads us into another flashback, right? A Christmas one. And with this Christmas flashback is Harry handing her a book that was written by this reality's version of Brother Voodoo. Now, with this book right here, it's really more him bringing up this conspiracy where every reality, every Earth in the multiverse might have two timelines, right? And so this is Hickman saying, hey, don't forget, because the maker did make this reality his own image. But also it's him hinting at the idea of Gwen trying to figure out how to bring down the maker, that she technically does know, and that this whole idea, this reality, is fake. Because as we get into another flashback, is another meeting going on with all the different members of the Mysterios. So you have Gwen, Quentin, and the other three. We have no idea who they are just yet. But with the group, they have been wondering, like, is it true that this reality is not the real reality of this earth? Was things change? And of course, for Gwen, she now has confirmation because remember, when it came to Harry Osborn, when he and Oscorp had absorbed part of the Stark Company, they also absorbed all their files. In those files, they had learned the big secret. And so for Gwen, it's her now telling the cult like, hey, listen, yes, we were right, that this reality's timeline is completely wrong. And so their goal now is to get the truth out there. But for Gwen, she does have a plan. And that plan started with Peter Parker and Mary Jane, technically Peter Parker's uncle, because those two characters, they left the Daily Bugle and began their own company, better known as The Paper, and Gwen has been funding them. And so, yes, you had Gwen and Harry hanging out with Peter and Mary Jane, yeah, but for Gwen, she was always working. And so she was like, hey, Mary Jane, I want to meet Ben and also JJ. Let's not forget that it was a point in time that Uncle Ben and JJ, they were going after Harry because they realized that Harry is the Green Goblin. But for Gwen, it was now kind of take them and push them in a different direction and kind of use them as a way to bring out the big secret about this reality. Now we're getting kind of closer and closer to the present day, right? And so now we're at the point where Peter and Harry were both kidnapped by Kraven. Now, for months, no one knew where they were at until Mysterio found him. Now, it was a different Mysterio who found Harry and Peter and informed Gwen like, hey, listen, I found your husband, Kraven has him, and he has no idea about the fact that our alliance is with the Mole Man. And so those two characters have been working together. Now, right now, it's Quentin Beckett like who is Mysterio, not Gwen. But either way, it's also him telling Gwen like, you gotta fire Otto. And the reason why, because remember, Harry said in an earlier book, if he ever disappears or gets kidnapped, Gwen goes under surveillance 24/7 to make sure that she is well protected. But that's a problem for the Mysterio organization because now that means sooner or later Otto could discover them. And so you had Gwen fire him as a way to protect the cult. And so now we kind of jump back over to that moment, right? Where we saw Kraven kill off Harry. And we already knew, like seriously, we already knew that Harry would not be dead in this reality. It was all a trick being done by Mysterio. So for Peter and Kraven, they believed that yes, Harry was killed off by Kraven. But in reality, it was just an illusion that Harry was saved the very last second by Mysterio. Now, at this point, the amulet has passed on to Gwen. So at this point, Gwen is now Mysterio. She has saved her husband's life and was able to get him away. And so for Peter, he left that area believing his best friend died, but no, homeboy's still alive. Now you do have Gwen go ahead and kill off Kraven once she does show him on like, hey, you've been played once again. And she kills off Kraven just like that. So no more Ultimate Kraven. And so as we get back over to the present day, it's just us now seeing Gwen and Harry being together once again. Now, it's the two of them kind of making sure like this stays a secret to kind of play with the idea of Harry being dead, but also kind of like figuring out what their next steps are going to be. And so the next issue is all about Harry's war, apparently. And I'm kind of like, man, where will that storyline go for Jonathan Hickman? With that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.